Luvafoodie iced tea. 4 clean drinking iced tea flavors. Lemon lovers, passion fruit lovers, raspberry lovers, and blood orange lovers iced tea. Eat clean, be well and stay well with our clean eating spice blends at Luvafoodie.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is May 16th, Monday. Welcome to Luvafoodie LinkedIn Live. I'm your host, Michelle Mazzara, and I'm very happy to have a empowering influencer, creator, producer, executive, Avril Jones.
Avril. I know. It's French.
Yeah. Say your first name again, please.
So it is pronounced Avril, and it's French for April.
Oh, I love that. That is very cool. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be on, and we have a lot to talk about. First, I want to, you had shared with me that you were from Minneapolis, my hometown. So are you a native from Minnesota?
No, I'm actually a native from Maine, and this little guy back here was the reason I ended up going to Minneapolis. So I used to be Miss Maine, and during that time I met so many people. That really was the start of my entertainment, I guess, affiliation and collaborative life. And I had an opportunity to go to Minneapolis, and I think that was in 1987. And I took off, and the rest is history.
And did you work while you were in the Twin Cities?
I did. So while I was in the Twin Cities, when I moved out there, I had my own business. It was an interior decorating business. And I was working for this small boutique, and Prince's crew walked in one day, and I ended up working with him on that and then collaborating with his team. He owned 2 big, huge nightclubs in downtown Minneapolis, Glam Slam. And then he owned another one that wasn't so well known, but I did all of their VIP, decor. So all of the furniture, selected the paintings with help from other people. I didn't do the whole thing myself, but the whole time while I was doing that, he had no idea I was also in one of his movies. So it was kind of funny.
Oh my gosh, what did you do in the movie? Were you a singer?
I was actually a dancer because that's what I was at the time, and that's what they needed. And he couldn't get over my long legs, so it was a lot of fun.
Well, and he's a very small man. So
he was.
So can you tell us anything? I mean, I grew up, with Purple Rain and First Avenue, and I did go to what was it called? Grand Slam?
Glam Slam?
It was a private club on First Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this takes me way back, but I think there was purple velvet couches.
Yeah.
Was there?
Thanks.
And the whole perimeter of the bar was VIP.
It was all VIP upstairs, and there was also a secondary lounge, yes. And then I don't know if you remember Thirsty Thursdays, but we used to do an art crawl every Thursday. So my girlfriend, Tracy, and her boyfriend were the curators of that. So, there was always something going on at Glam Slam. It was a lot of fun. It was kind of crazy.
I think one time I was actually there, and Prince was there. We couldn't see him. He had a private entrance, but everyone said Prince is in the house. And sometimes Prince would, just get up and jam.
Oh yeah, he'd jump up on that stage all the time. I don't know if you remember when Boys to Men really wasn't Boys to Men, but Natural Selection opened up for Boys to Men, and Prince got up on the stage. It was mayhem. It was just absolutely crazy. So that happened all the time. And then of course there was First Avenue where or Bonkers where he'd just, show up too. So it was a lot of fun growing up in that era. I loved it.
Right. Did you ever go, and then we'll move on to you, but did you ever go to Paisley Park? Paisley Studios?
Oh yeah, I actually Yeah, so I lived about a half a mile from Paisley Park. And really quick story is in 2009, I ended up moving to Eden Prairie, which is where Paisley Park is in Chanhassen. I lived down by the golf course. And so I was right on the edge of Chanhassen and Eden Prairie. And I used to bike to the Cub Foods in Chanhassen at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because I was a single mom and it was about the only time I could go to a grocery store without my 2 daughters.
That's
I
fun.
was a single parent, so that happened. And many times I would see Prince shopping, either there or at Walgreens or CVS. I mean, he was just always, he was a night owl, so he was always out and about. And he'd always give me the nod. It was really, it's like, because he didn't like to really be approached, but he was very kind and always generous, always nice.
Yeah,
And
he was
very
fun. He was a big, part of the Twin Cities and the culture that I grew up in. And when I went to school and high school and Little Red Corvette and Purple Rain, I mean, that was my whole era. And when he passed away, it was a huge loss for the Twin Cities. I mean, for the world, but really we felt it in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Yeah, it was a tough time. So I won't say very close to everybody anymore because we've all moved apart, but I still am in touch with his crew. Still his old stage manager and I, are in business together on some things. She's a screenwriter. And she actually is the one that got me into Graffiti Bridge. We're still in touch with each other. The whole community sort of reconnected again. And of course, now the Revolution has revamped and is back out on tour. So Prince influenced so many people's lives outside of even being a musician, just his philanthropy, his philosophies, and just seeing his smiling face all around town and supporting other artists. And a lot of people don't know that he wrote a ton of music that didn't get performed, but he wrote for other artists. So it was kind of fun too. It was just a wonderful time being in that city at the time.
Yes. So tell us how you transitioned from Minneapolis to, you're in New York now? And
no, I'm actually right now, I'm in Connecticut, Maine.
Oh, you're Maine. Okay, you're in Maine. Okay, because you've worked for some really big companies, Mercedes-Benz, Mattel, and all of those were in PR marketing. Tell us a little bit about, you went from interior design and then you got into a little bit into
finance. I got into finance.
Finance. How did you transition and what led you? Because it seems like some doors opened for you that maybe a lot of people wouldn't know how to open.
Exactly. So, I'm also a model by trade. I've been modeling since I was 7. And really when you start out on the other side of the camera, so to speak, right? Really what you're doing is sales. It's all sales. But it's also what are you selling? The messaging. So I was very astute with that early on. And I'll tell you a real quick story how I got into all of this. My brother passed away when I was 7. And my uncle at the time was the president of the American Cancer Society, Northern region. And he came up from Washington, D.C. to visit and basically was trying to help my parents help me navigate the loss of my very best friend. My brother was 11, I was 7. So he said, why don't we work on something together? Let's raise some money for the American Cancer Society. And I said, okay, how do we do that? He said, let's do a lemonade stand. So he set me up with this lemonade stand. I did it. First summer, it wasn't that great, but what I was learning every day was if I wrote a different message, other people would come and it would resonate with other people, And so I was getting a whole different crowd every day. And then I just started operating with different neon colors, with paint. And I was 7, it was a cardboard paper and just a bunch of what I thought would be attractive artwork to draw people in. I did this consistently for about 5 summers and paid for my way to Maine YMCA camp. But I also donated money to the American Cancer Society, and I still do. So that was really the beginning of marketing, looking at how people resonated with that message and what resonated with, kids versus adults, neighborhood people versus people that were just driving by and had to pass my street. And I also moved locations. I stopped doing it in front of my house and went up to an intersection where there was more people. So really, I started to think about all of that. And I kept doing things with philanthropy from American Cancer Society, then leading up into when I was involved heavily with the Miss America scholarship program and a Miss Maine, donating to the Ronald McDonald House and getting fundraisers. So when all of this transition started happening, right, in my post-college years, I did start out in modeling and interior decorating, basically doing just about anything I could because I'd gone all the way across country. So you need to be able to be resilient, right, and also adaptable and have a broad perspective. So I ended up going into finance because I was selling cars, and that happened. I think downtown Jaguar in Minneapolis. Ted Turp was the general manager, still is, and he needed a model for one of the auto shows, and he asked me if I would like to do it. I was friends with he and his wife and other friends, and I said sure. So I did it. I don't remember what year that was, but it was somewhere in the early 90s, late 90s. And that led me into an automobile career. So I started selling cars, and then I got into finance. I worked for Feldman's Mercedes-Benz. And while I was at Mercedes or working for Feldman's, there were survey groups that Mercedes was going and doing around the world in order to get feedback on their product. And in this class, they were in this space, they were looking at, what can we do to change the E-Class, which had been the #1 selling luxury vehicle for many, many years, but then sales started to go down. So I would sit on these, boards and help them receive information, whether it was from a female perspective, from a salesperson's perspective. And I said, hey, I have a knack at this, I can really go farther. So I then switched to mortgages, finance in mortgages. I worked for Lehman Brothers, a couple of people, Bear Stearns, and then when that came to a crashing halt in 2008, luckily I had already made a pivot and started my own company, because one of the things I wanted to continue was philanthropy. Okay. So I thought, it would be wonderful if I could do this for nonprofits instead of just giving and donating and raising money. How about if I taught them how to do that? So I'm not sure if you are familiar with the booty ball that happens in Minneapolis, but that was my creation. I think we did that in 2009. We had our first event down at First Avenue, and it was a huge success, and they continue on with it. So the whole idea about marketing isn't just putting a logo up or posting a message 10 times a day on social media. There's a whole strategy behind it. And it literally does not matter what the widget is. It is, how do you make that widget work with the messaging that you're pulling out?
And I think you have to be clear and concise what that message is. I mean, Luvafoodie is a clean eating brand, and it's very simple. If I, can communicate anything every day on my social media, it's clean eating, clean drinking. And yes. I think it's important as a marketer to make it simple. So when people see a logo, whether it's Revlon or Nike or the Mercedes logo, it resonates right away with that person.
And consistency, you just said that, it's not just the message being clean, KISS is one of my favorite things to say, keep it super simple, but also the consistency of it. Make sure that you're always consistent. That's important because that's how you earn people's trust, and that's what they look for. And
Right.
something else that's very important as well. And I love your foundation. I love your food products. You and I have talked about this once before. I'm gluten-free. I eat no nuts. I'm dairy-free. Every once in a while, I'll sneak a piece of cheese because Wisconsin has some good cheese.
Yes, they do.
But it's important that whatever it is that you are standing behind, and that you're pushing out, that you are very transparent. That you're not sneaking up, eating whoopie pies with a bunch of sugar behind it. So I think that's very important, especially in today's market space. Everybody is looking for transparency as well.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I saw on your profile, and maybe you can explain this, you've got hashtag live your dream. Is that your marketing message? And if so, can you explain that to everyone who's watching and listening?
So when I lived in Maine, growing up as a teen, modeling and dancing, I went to NYUT School of the Arts as a performing arts major. I would oftentimes have to drive 9 hours just for a 10-minute audition. And it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking that there was nothing in Maine, for the most part. I'm not going to say nothing because that's, I obviously made a living here. But for entertainment, it was very early on, before the film industry started to show up here and people realized how beautiful Maine was. I was going to New York. Sometimes I'd have to fly down to Florida. So I realized that when I was given an opportunity to show up on a set because I knew someone, because I was able to, meet a person who worked at Paisley Park, I wanted to pay that forward. So I decided that everyone is given a set of gifts that they're born with, and I call it God gifts. And it's our responsibility to make the world go round, to reach out whenever we can and help someone. I also think it's very important, two things, that no matter where you are is where you're supposed to be. So you are enough. And no matter what, as long as you put your mind to it, you believe in yourself, and you turn off the noise from the outside world, you can live your dream. So those are my messages.
I like them. I like both of them, and I think it's so important to be authentic and follow your dreams. And I do that every day, and I have to turn off that noise because I wouldn't still be here if I was listening to all the voices out there saying, what are you doing? Do you have a business plan? You're in a crowded space. How are you going to do this? I mean, there were so many negative Nellies and Debbie Downers, and I just had to say, leave me alone. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to focus. And if you're not going to come along for the ride, please go away, because this is my path, and I know it's hard, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. And I think that's a message I try to share with everybody. It is hard. I'm not going to lie, but it's possible. If you have the tenacity and you have the drive, you can do anything.
Well, Michelle, there has not been a space that I haven't been the only one in, and I'm very serious. When I worked for Bloomington Honda Nissan, I was the only female salesperson. When I worked for Feldman Mercedes-Benz, I was the only Mercedes-Benz female salesperson, and only one of 10 in the United States. So it's always been something for me. And I think I liken it for me. I grew up with 3 older brothers, and I was the only girl. So I think that gave me a little bit of a foundation that a lot of women don't have. And It's easier for me to turn that off, or to use it as fuel and say, oh no, you're not going to be the only one standing on this stage. You're not going to be the only one in this market space. So congratulations to you. What you're doing is amazing. We need clean food. There's so many toxins out in the
Mhm.
and pollutes out in the world today. When I got back to Maine in 2018, I was shocked because when I lived here, we had all of these natural food stores. And
Mhm.
now they're so few and far between. It's been very difficult to get food. And I have to say, thank God for the pandemic in that way, because so many people had to go online. It was much easier for me to
Right.
find products that I can use on a daily.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about Revere Studios and how people can get involved, or then I want to move into what you offer as a consultant, a freelance person. But let's go to Revere Studios next.
Yeah, that's fun. So Revere Studios was started by two gentlemen, Greg Hill and Jess Stevens. They both
Okay.
are former Disney employees.
Oh,
And yes, and it's been 9 years in the making. I'm actually one of the only female executives on on,
I
on
saw
board.
that. I went to the website and I was like, oh, she stands out. She says yes. But okay, go on. That's it. That's cool. I mean, I think they obviously wanted the best, and if you're it, you're it.
Yeah, so what happens in this space is we looked around and well, I didn't even they came to me, but we have been
Okay.
looking around in the market space for, what is out there for content. So for those of you who don't know what content is, that would be the movies, the film, the TV shows, that kind of
Mhm.
content, but also screenplays. And there is a need for family friendly, right? More family friendly GPG, maybe even PG-13 movies, but that have a positive message. And when I say positive message, look, we all live this life and we all have our trials and tribulations and we learn lessons from them. So that's what we're about, is passing on and shining a light in maybe a space where it can be very dark for someone, putting out content that people can resonate with. Whether you're 95 or 4, you're going to have fun sitting next to each other on a couch without being embarrassed. If you're there with your grandmother or your young daughter, you're not going to have to worry about implicit content, foul language, gratuitous violence. We are about fun, friendly content and entertainment. So I'm really excited to be a part of the team, and good things are coming.
So it's brand new and there's been nothing produced yet. Is that correct?
There is nothing that has been produced that is out on the market. We are in production on a few items right now. We have a television show. I can't really talk about too much because we haven't done any press releases.
Okay.
They haven't let me do that yet, but yeah, it's exciting. So keep your eyes open in the next 24 months.
Very cool. And will it be on cable or network, or is that also
In the movies,
private?
in theaters, it will be all over
Okay.
the place. So we will be on television, we will be in theaters, and we will be streaming. So
Wow.
distribution
That's
will be
amazing.
everywhere. Yeah.
Congratulations to be part of a new enterprise in that space. I think that's very exciting.
Well, thank you. And it is a new space that is being revived. It was so funny. I just posted the other day the top 100 G-rated movies in the last 20 years, and my guys have worked on 5 to 8 of them. So it's just kind
Wow.
of funny. But I will say it took them 20 years to come up with 100. So think about that. If it took them 20 years to come up with 100 G-rated movies, we have a long way to go. So I'm very excited about it. But a lot of fun and exciting blockbusters. Now, I will tell you, just to toot their horn because they don't like doing this, Greg has worked on Lion King. He's worked on, Lilo and Stitch. So those types of movies, you will be seeing that caliber come through our studio. I'm not going to say they're all animated, but animation is going to be definitely a part of our content. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, I'm excited for you, and I can't wait to see him. Lion King was one of my favorite plays and one of my favorite movies ever. So tell us a little bit. I know it's not out yet, but you're writing a book. So what is the name of the book, and what is it about? And when will it be
Well,
released?
I have actually written the book, and
Oh, okay.
I have been super scared and frightened to actually put it out. It is called Blind Trust. And it's being published by Ex Libris, so they have it. They're just waiting for me to push the button. I think, I needed to have a sign from the universe that it was the right time. Lots of things were going on in my life, and it felt like I needed to also let my daughters grow up a little bit before I put this book out. It is inspired by a true story, and
Is it
that
about
true
you?
story is the true story is about a lot of people in my life that I have met. And my daughters would be part of that. So I wanted to make sure that they would be old enough, number one, to understand some of the things that they were too young to understand when they happened. And number two, the lessons that I hope to convey are lessons like I talk about throughout this that we go through every single day. And this is sort of my way of giving back to people who are struggling, people who think they're all alone, but they're not. Maybe people who think that they're not enough. So that's where your enough comes in, because exactly where you are is where you need to be, because you have something to learn, something to give, or, something to just enjoy. We forget about that. We're always trying to move ahead, move ahead, move ahead. But sometimes all we have to do is sit in quiet.
I think this would be, with the pandemic and still COVID on the rise in different areas and coming back and forth, I think this would be a great time to publish it, because so many people, and I don't know exactly the content, but it sounds like it will be inspirational and motivating and help a lot of people.
Absolutely. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to hold back on the book, is because I think I made it in its first write a little bit more fictional than my heart truly wanted it to be. So
Okay.
I would read excerpts to people, and I would find out that, they thought it was very helpful to them. They learned something, maybe in just 4 or 5 paragraphs. And I said, wait a minute, I need to rethink this. So the wonderful thing about this book is there are some quotes that I share in the front of chapters, and also real true stories that I share as well. And this will be a movie, by the way. So it's going to be turned into a movie. I'm halfway through the screenplay. So we'll see. The next 2 years are going to be pretty busy for me.
Wow. So is your studio producing it for you?
We haven't fully decided. So we have Revere Studios, and then we have Revere Entertainment. I believe Revere Entertainment will be part of the production, but it is not necessarily content for Revere Studios. It's a little bit more graphic because it's very, very, very true life ups and downs that, a single mom can go through, or for that matter, anybody going through divorce.
Yes, I can't wait to read the book. But when you do publish the book, if you want to come back on Luvafoodie LinkedIn Live and talk about it, share the book, I'd be happy to, have you back on.
I will. Part of the book also goes through my journey of becoming gluten-free. So that's kind of funny.
Yep.
It's not funny, but it was a real big part of the book, because in my real life, I had a struggle. Did not know that I had severe stage 4 endometriosis. And so there was a lot of digestive issues. And that's what turned me into being gluten-free and eating clean.
I'm a endometriosis survivor, I should say. I mean, I had it for very bad for about 10 years. And then finally I went into menopause and it went away. So I understand.
I wasn't that lucky. I had 13 surgeries, but I always say that my daughters are miracles because I was told I'd never have children. It was so bad.
Exactly.
And I do. I have two beautiful angels, and they're a blessing every day.
Yeah, you are very lucky because I had several surgeries and was pretty much told the same thing. Let's move on to what you're doing today and how, so you have so many skills that you can offer our viewers and listeners on LinkedIn. You're freelance. Can you tell us a little bit about if I'm listening or watching today, how I can contact you and what services you offer?
Absolutely. So first of all, one of the questions I always get is, where can I find your website? I do not have a website. LinkedIn has been my brick and mortar for over 15 years. I've been in business for 15 years, and people actually find me by word of mouth usually. But what I do is, let's say for you, for example, you have a podcast, you're on StreamYard. This is one of the things that I actually do is I help promote as well as produce podcasts and television shows, but I also help build the brand. And what that means is maybe working with somebody from the beginning on messaging, even a business plan, vision and mission statements. I work with executives who are doing a transition from maybe being in a professional life and then wanting to go out into the mainstream on television shows, radio shows as an expert in their field. And so a lot of what I do is actually on the backside. I can't publish it because it's all IP. It's not mine. But I write speeches, I write content, I do editing. I'm also a graphic designer and I create content. I post on social media. Basically everything that you can think of for marketing, I do. So how does that relate to how people on LinkedIn listening today can benefit? I work with people through packages. And so those packages are customized for them, whether they're looking for just one component of their branding and or marketing. And I discuss that with them, what they need. Sometimes what they need is not as much as they think they do. So that makes it easy. But I do a 15-minute free consult. We just walk through what it is that they're looking for. Like I said, there's so many things. I think my LinkedIn is pretty, definitive as to what I can and can't do. And I am doing it just for a limited time because things are going to get busy. So I think I have about maybe 6 months where I can take on clients. And then from there, I'm sort of going to wind it down. So they can reach me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Twitter, MavGirl. 2938 on Twitter. I'm here on LinkedIn and MENC Branding. That's what I am.
Great. And people should link into you. But it sounds like your future is going to be with this Revere Studios and entertainment and building fabulous new movies and TV and all different kinds of streamlined content. And then you've got the book and the movie. That's a lot on your plate.
Well, it's, a lot of it's been done. So it's just a matter of we're waiting. And once that happens, that'll be great. But I can never see myself just giving up my business. So as a matter of fact, I'm actually starting a new LLC, MavGirl Productions, and then Baylow Entertainment. That's the first and second of my daughter's first names. So yeah, and the Baylow will be YA. Content and Maverick Enterprises, and consulting is my branding and marketing. So just come find me. If I can't do it, I certainly know a ton of people who can. And
that's
you gotta stay busy. A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
I get it. Are your daughters grown now? Because you have a lot going on. Are they adult women now?
They're 24 and 25. One lives in just, she lives in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And my other daughter is a fashion model. So she's traveling all over the world.
Oh, interesting. So you come to the Twin Cities then sometimes?
Yes. I was last there in September. I'll be back in August. I'm going to come out and see Kenny Chesney.
Oh, for the State Fair. right? Yeah.
No, I'm going to go see him at the stadium, U.S.
Oh,
Stadium.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, nice,
So.
nice. Well, maybe we'll meet up for something in person.
I'd love to get in touch with you. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love your packaging. I just have to tell you, it's so simple, it's so rememberable, and I can't wait to try some of the products. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for
Thank
doing
you.
that for us.
Oh, yes. Well, it has been my pleasure to have you on the show, and I did not know the in-depth link that you had to Prince and this Twin Cities. So that I always love to be surprised by my guests. I don't like to, know a whole lot of information, and I don't like to rehearse anything beforehand because it's an element of surprise for me, and I always learn something. And so I learned a lot from you today. And your book sounds really interesting. I would like to have you back on when you do publish it, and let's talk a little bit more about that when that time comes.
Thank you so
So
much, Michelle. And I meant to ask you, so where did you grow up in Minnesota?
I grew up in Mendota Heights,
Okay. All right.
sort of near the airport, about 10 minutes from the
Yeah.
airport. Yeah, I live in
Stuff.
Eagan now.
Okay.
I,
All
I've
right.
lived in Eagan for 20 years, and so yeah, I like it. I mean, I like it here in the summer and spring. I'm not a winter person, so my ideal would be to have a summer place or a winter place in Florida at some point, or someplace warm. So
Okay.
I have a ways to go before that can happen, but that would be my goal.
Well,
So
good luck. Both places, Arizona, Florida, a lot of people from Minnesota do that.
yes,
And somebody asked me how I stayed in Minnesota for so long, and I said I lived downtown. We had skyways. I never had to
yes,
go outside.
that's true. True. Yes, it was a long. I mean, every year I say that was a long winter, but it was a long winter and a long spring. It was cold and rainy, so and our summers are so short. They're just like whoop, it's over again. So, but we'll see what the future holds. But anyway, thank you for being on my show. Best of luck. I'm gonna really be excited to see what your shows are and your movies, and we'll stay in touch and definitely get together when you come in town. Everybody,
Absolutely, and
yeah, go ahead.
appreciate you having me. No, I was going to say
Oh,
thank you very much for having me, and good luck with everything. Stay safe.
thank you. You too. And everybody,
Thank you.
join me next week when I'll have Mark Levine on. He is actually wrote a book on how to self-publish, and he sold his company. And so anyone who's thinking about writing a book or wants to learn more about self-publishing, this is the show for you next Monday. So be sure and join us and eat clean, drink clean, be well, and stay well. And I'm going to turn on my little jingle now. Thank you, everyone.